Hey everybody, it's Dominic from the Primetime Treasure eBay store and YouTube channel. Welcome to the second part of my video series on bookkeeping for resellers. The first part of the video series is linked down below in the description section if you'd like to check that out. That is the video in which I covered the three major programs that resellers tend to use for doing their bookkeeping and accounting of expenses over the course of the year, so you're prepared for tax season, so that you make sure you deduct all the expenses that you should be taking off, so you maximize the profitability of your reselling business. The three major programs that I reviewed in that video were QuickBooks. That was the most expensive option I looked at. Number two, which was a more moderately priced option, was GoDaddy. That's a very popular program, their online bookkeeping service. And then number three was Microsoft Excel, which is completely free. It's a spreadsheet-based program that most people, almost everybody, has on their computer as long as you have Microsoft Office installed on it. And during that video, I mentioned that I would do some follow-up videos on how to use Microsoft Excel for logging in information and documenting the accounting information that you need to put in there for free over the course of the year. And many people have followed up since that video and asked me, and told me, because I asked how many people would be interested in this, and several people wrote me and said you would be interested in that video. So this is the first one. I'm going to break it up into several parts. This one's just going to focus on deducting your miles, the miles that you are driving related to your reselling business. It's very, very important to log that somehow, and to make sure you're deducting that at the end of the year. It could save you a lot of money off of your taxes for a deduction. So keep this in mind, that for the year 2018, you can deduct 54.5 cents per mile that you drove. So the time you went out sourcing, going to garage sales, estate sales, rummage sales, stopping off somewhere to get a drink or a snack, driving to the post office, to FedEx, whatever the case may be, all those miles are deductible. Now, if you don't want to deduct the miles and you just want to deduct the amount of gas that you spent going to all these places, you can do that as well. But that becomes a little bit trickier if you're using a vehicle for multiple purposes and not just for your reselling business. And that's what many of us do. We have a vehicle that we're using not only for reselling, but then we're also going to the grocery store with it, dropping our kids off to school, that sort of thing. So in that instance, you have to take a conservative percentage of how much you're using the vehicle for reselling purposes, and then you would deduct that percentage off of your gas expenses. Now, if you have a vehicle that you just use for reselling purposes, then you could certainly just easily compute how much gas you spent on that by saving the receipts. But if not, then it will likely make more sense for you to just keep track of the miles, because it's much more easier to figure out and say, okay, I drove on such and such date to do such and such thing related to my reselling business, and you just break it out that way. Now, there are free options that you can use online that are outside of Microsoft Excel, at least up until a point. So let me just cover those with you so you're aware of that. The most popular version out there in terms of an app that you can use is the one that's put out by MileIQ. This is an app that you basically download onto your phone, and you press a button when you're going out for a trip, and it will basically just document the actual trip. It will put an IRS compliant document together for you, so you could print it out at the end of the year when you have to account for how much miles that you wound up driving. It will add up how many miles you drove per month, per year. You can do all that sort of stuff with it, and it is free up to 40 drives a month. Now, if you go more than that, then you have to choose a payment program, which would be $5.99 per month if you're just paying monthly. If you are paying an annual fee, then you could pay $59.99. It works out to about $5 a month. That's based on the pricing today, which is August 28th, 18. Of course, this is all subject to change depending on when you're viewing this video. There is another option out there for you to be aware of. There is a program called Everlance, and that program is really trying to take MileIQ on directly. Now, they do a lot of the same things. The pricing, well, they'll give you 30 free trips, not 40, And the price annually works out to be about the same, but if you're paying monthly, it's a little bit more. It's $8. Now, I'm sure there's other apps out there. If you know of ones that you like, feel free to put those down below in the comment section. Let people know. But just keep in mind, with any free app you use, it's subject to change at any point and shift over to a payment model. For example, Everlance used to be a model that was totally free, and then they moved up to a payment plan after you pass 30 trips per month. So you know, that's basically how these systems tend to work. But there is a free version or free option you can use no matter how many trips it is that you are taking per month, and that's what you can do by using Excel. Now, just to preface this, the reason why programs like MileIQ and Everlance exist is because people don't want to do what it is that I'm going to show you, because it does require a little more work. It requires basically being organized and having a system put in place that you stick to and just making sure you're structured. However, as I'm going to show you, it's really super simple as long as you stay organized with it. Let me show you what I mean. So this is Microsoft Excel right here. You just open it. It's this little green tab here, and you could type anything you want into the field. You could type in words, and you could type in, you know, so text, and you could type in numbers. So here I just got it started. I typed in the date, a field for the date, miles driven, we want to log that. We want to log the reason that we drove, and we want to log in the route driven, in other words, the address. So let's say today, 8/28/18, I drove 4 miles to the post office for a package drop off. So that's what I'd write. That's the reason, package drop off. And the route driven was home to, let's say I went to the Syracuse post office. So I write that down, and then I write to home. Make sure you're documenting going back. Now, if there's only one Syracuse post office or one post office in your city, you don't have to put the actual street address in there. However, because you know it if you're ever asked about it. But if there were multiple, then you just put that in there. Let's just say 123 Smith Street, and obviously it's Syracuse, so we don't have to write that. So let's say tomorrow now I go to the post office again. So it's 8/29/18. I obviously have to change the date. I know the miles, that's simple, it's 4. Now, it's package drop off again, so if I just hit the letter P, it will pre-populate because there's nothing else in that field that starts with P. So it will automatically put in there, so you just click it and you just put it like that, and it will just automatically go in there. Same with the route, so home, I only have one thing in there so far that has the word home in it because I just started out the document, so I don't even have to type anything in there. But let's say, to show you how it would work if I went somewhere else, if I went tomorrow to the flea market, that's a little farther, that's 22 miles, and let's say I went there for sourcing. So that's what I would type in, sourcing, and I went home to, now you see it's still bringing up the Syracuse post office because I didn't type in anything that differs from the pre-populated field yet, but if I type in the letter C, now it takes everything away because that's different. If I typed in the letter S, it would bring that back up again. You see that? Now if I had something else that started with the letter S, then I'd have to hit SY to make the Syracuse one come up. So, but we're going to do the CNY regional market, which is what our flea market is called, regional market right there. And, you know, it's a popular location around here. If I was ever audited, I know the address. But if you want to just type it in there, so 145, I'm just making something up here, Jones Road. And then, obviously, we're going to put here it's in Syracuse, and we're going to say to home. So there you go, you've documented that. Now what if instead of going straight home, you went to garage sales, community garage sales. So let's say community garage sales in Westville, which is, you know, a suburb in Syracuse. So we'll just put that in there, and then we'll say that we went to home from there. So let's just say that I added 6 miles to the trip. So instead of 22 miles, I'd add in 20, to put 28 because let's say I added 6 miles. Do you have to literally put in every address that you went to at the community garage sale in Westville? No, you don't. That should be sufficient for tax reporting purposes. Keep in mind, I'm not an accountant, so if an accountant winds up telling you differently, then go with that. But based on everything that I've been doing and everything I know, that is fine to do, as long as you just want to make sure that as much as possible you have ways to cross-reference where it is that you went. So for example, if you went to the post office, try to get a receipt that you hold on to that shows you went to the post office that day, or print out online if you don't want to wait in line to get the receipt. Just make sure that you print out that you went there that day, because it will show that online that the package was dropped off. So have some documentation in case you were ever audited. If you went somewhere, let's say you went to a garage sale, so we'll type in 82918 again, and let's say after we came home from going to the community garage sale, we found out there was one near us, so we drove 10 miles away, we went sourcing. Actually, let's change it to an estate sale. So we'll say home to, we'll make up an address, 65 Gardner Road. Again, just making something up here. And we'll say that that was in Liverpool, New York, which is a city nearby me. I don't have to type New York because I know everything is in New York. Liverpool, and we're going to put here that it's an estate sale by, let's say the person who runs it is Steve, and I know Steve. Estate sale by Steve. Okay, and eventually we're going to go home. But I didn't buy anything. Okay, put down, found nothing. You just didn't find anything, or maybe you went somewhere to make a deal. The deal fell through. You just couldn't make it. So you just put deal not made, but you still want to document that you went there because that was related to your business. It is something that you can take off. Now, are you going to have a way to prove necessarily that you were there? Well, not really, but if you were audited, the chances that that's going to be something that would be removed is low, as long as you show that during the course of the year that everything else you're documenting, you have ways to cross-reference. No one's going to think that you're trying to make up taking 10 miles off. And worst case scenario, if they thought that you were, they take 10 miles off, no big deal over the course of the year. Because over the course of the year, it's going to look like this. Let me show you. This is what I have so far for the year. You could see here, starts in January 2017. Now, I didn't put the addresses here because I don't want to reveal some people's addresses that I work with because they wouldn't appreciate it. But you could see here different reasons that I went places. So package drop-off at USPS, sourcing in food. So if you're driving somewhere to get a snack or a drink, you could deduct that, or breakfast, lunch, even dinner. You could deduct the time it took you to get there. FedEx drop-offs, document that as well. If you're going to sign up for an estate sale the next day, document that as well. That's related to your business. You're trying to get in there early so you can make a good deal for yourself. So you can see here, here's a sourcing, nothing found. That's the type of stuff you document. So at the very end of the year, what will happen here, now you can see there's a few here I have to go back and put in, but for the most part, I have everything in here. What you'll do is you'll go right below the all these numbers, and you'll type you'll actually click the FX button up here, which stands for function, and that's going to bring up all different options here. The one you're going to want to pick is the one that says sum. So you'll see that right there, it says sum in there. You can even type that in, equal sum. And what it's going to do is you could basically input here the fields that you want to be added. And that's what a sum obviously is you're adding things. So we're going to make, I already typed this in, but you could see here, you could just type in whatever you want. So B2, so we're going to sum up B2, which is what that's referring to is you see here, every one of these columns has a letter of the alphabet. So that is column B, the date is in column A, the reason driven is column C. But for adding in the numbers of miles driven, we just want to deal with column B. So our function is, and this is if it was blank, you could see here, this is what you would pick. You could pick the sum, and then there's ways to do other things. You could average things out. There's all sorts of functions, but we just want to deal with sum. So it's going to summarize, we want to summarize B3 all the way to B25. Not 25, sorry, B95. So that's what we want, the sum of the numbers from B3 to B95, and that's what I have it set up for. So once you just do that and you just hit enter, it gives you that number right there. So that shows you so far I drove 3,290 miles. And, if you calculate that out at 54.5 cents a mile, that's a lot of deduction that I get to take off at the end of the year for taxes. So that's why you want to make sure you document that. And that's exactly how you would do it in Excel. Now, my system of going about doing this is when I get in the car, I make sure I just clear the odometer. That's it. Now, if you think about it, if you're using MileIQ or one of these other apps, you have to do the same type of thing. Now, you're not resetting your odometer, but you have to press the button to say you're going on a trip, or else how else is it going to know that you are going on a trip. So you have to be disciplined in doing that. And then when you get back from your reselling trip and you get home, just take a picture of your odometer before you turn off the car. When you get in, try to make that one of the first things you do is just go over to your file and just input exactly what you did, where you went, put the number in there. And that's it. It's that simple. It doesn't cost a thing no matter how many times you do it. Again, you just have to be organized with it and, you know, just keep a structure in place and you're all set. So I hope you found this helpful. We will go over more sophisticated ways to use Excel for documenting other aspects of your reselling business in future videos. But if you liked this video and found it helpful, please make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the Primetime Treasure YouTube channel. Trying to get to 1,000 members. We're almost at 900, so if you could help me get there, I would really appreciate that. We're at like 900, no, sorry, we're like 871 right now, so getting there. Also, if you want to follow me on Instagram, I have lots of useful information that I put up there, little video clips throughout the day that are reselling tips. That's at Primetime Treasure. You can also make sure that you have joined my Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center. The link to that is down below. Lots of great people in there, lots of useful tips, and lots of great information there. So you could just join that through the description section. And in my description section, by the way, you will see a lot of links to other tools that I use in my reselling business to help me out. So those are affiliate links. So if you click on any of those things and purchase anything through there in terms of supplies and, like, you know, helpful tools, that does help me out, help support the channel. So I appreciate that as well. Thank you very much. And anything you actually purchase through Amazon after you click on one of those links does help me out. So thank you very much for checking out the video. Interact with me down below with any comments or questions if there's things you'd still like to know that I haven't addressed. And I will see you all at the next video. Thanks a lot, everybody.